Hi, it's Lee, and welcome to the Tesla Economist. I've been wanting to talk about this for quite some time, but I think we have a potential game changer here. I know that term gets thrown around a lot, so much so that it probably has lost somewhat of its meaning. But this is a new industry with a lot of new products continually being launched, along with many technological breakthroughs. And in case you couldn't tell, the EV and battery industries are going to be huge. So there is a lot being invested in the likes of research and development. Now, despite how many times I say this, there are always people saying that Tesla will make an LFP 4680. The reason I say they will not is because Elon on at least 2 occasions has said Tesla will not make a 4680 LFP cell. And I've explained why on numerous occasions. The 4680 form factor is designed to be the best cell for nickel for vehicles. LFP doesn't have the same thermal management issues that nickel cells do. Also, LFP will need to be produced in a much larger quantity than the 4680 cells. Not that 4680 won't be produced in the largest quantity out of any cell in history so far, but that might mean they are able to produce an even larger form factor, which offers more efficiencies, lighter weight relative to volume, and faster on the production line. On the Q2 earnings call though, Elon was no longer referring to LFP cells, but instead using the term iron phosphate as the future of mass-produced vehicles. Now, that would also include lithium manganese iron phosphate cells, or LMFP. Now, there has been talk about manganese cells for some time, and before this, I was thinking there'd be more a ternary-style manganese cathode, containing aluminium and nickel, and it would end up being reasonably high energy density, like the 4680 cells, and this was somewhat implied from the battery day slides. Manganese has a similar energy density to nickel, yet is about 5 times more abundant and lower cost. There is simply not enough nickel on the planet to transition to renewable energy with batteries. So it is imperative to look at alternative elements. On the other side, there is ample iron in the world to transition, but the energy density is not close to what it is when compared to nickel cells. Therefore, nickel is required for certain applications like long-distance driving, colder climates, and semi-trucks that require that much more power and energy. Although Elon has said perhaps 2/3 of all EVs will end up being iron phosphate. Of course, this is not at all a concern when it comes to the energy industry, as energy density is not an issue, nor is form factor, as they don't have to fit within the limited height of a structure of a vehicle, which now makes it quite obvious why Tesla would create a new form factor for energy and LFP. LFP is great for energy, particularly also how it doesn't degrade anything close to nickel. The cells can handle a lot of charging cycles before degradation is even noticed. Tesla have done an outstanding job with LFP in their vehicles, managing to reach ranges in excess of 280 miles. But when you move that to the Model Y, it reduces down to around 230 miles. And then an even larger vehicle would be under 200 miles. Consumers feel more comfortable with around 300 miles. This is, however, Tesla using CATL's LFP cells, not designed by Tesla's talented engineers and scientists, and Tesla is still able to manage to get these ranges due to their efficient motors, powertrains, and software. The competition uses about 30% more cells to get about 20% less range of LFP. Tesla are just that much further ahead. When it comes to range and energy density, every kilogram counts. Whether you're reducing weight from previous parts of the car or improving battery energy density, it all makes a difference. And with LFP, as we are now, at least for Tesla, we are so close to some decent ranges. It won't take much more of an improvement to get there. And for the competition too, equally, they just need that slight improvement on energy density to offer practical ranges, rather than around the low 200 miles. Their current technique being finding ways of stuffing more cells into the battery to get longer range. But now we are hearing that CATL are making progress in this direction, as you may have heard of the new cell called the M3P. CATL have combined LFP with a ternary cathode made of manganese, zinc, and aluminium. Note how there is no nickel or cobalt. Now, these could perhaps be called a type of LMFP, but they are not true LMFP cells. However, CATL are claiming an increase in energy density of 15%, up to perhaps 230 watt-hours per kg. 15%. In this game, if you can improve energy density by 15%, it's a massive deal. For example, if Tesla's current LFP cells are using 60 kilowatt-hour batteries with LFP, if the same weight of cells was used with M3P, then 15% extra on 60 kilowatt-hours takes it to almost 70 kilowatt-hours. This would take the Model 3 rear-wheel drive to well above 300 miles of range, and might mean Tesla could reach perhaps 260 miles of range in a rear-wheel drive Model Y, or around those figures. Either way, that's a big jump, and the increase in the price of the cells would be relatively minor from a traditional LFP cell. This is such a big deal. I know big deals with Tesla get drowned by so many other big deals that Tesla have achieved, but nonetheless, it really is a game changer. Now, we can speculate as to how Tesla would treat these cells, whether they reduce the cell count and use them as a standard range vehicle, meaning the car would be lighter weight and handle better and cost less, or they could actually offer a mid-range vehicle, which I think might be what they do. The saving of reducing the cell count would be a lot less than the additional price they could charge for a mid-range compared to a standard range. I think a low 300-mile range Model 3 at a relatively low cost has got to be a real sweet spot, at least for a lot of consumers. The battery would also have enough energy to justify an all-wheel drive version too. This cell has the ability to really tap new markets at different price points. CATL are also in the process of building a brand new factory, very near Tesla's Giga Shanghai. Tesla are also about to build a new factory, expanding their Shanghai location. CATL have recently retrofitted a fab nearby too, supposedly capable of up to 80 gigawatt hours a year capacity when fully ramped, enough cells for an additional 1.3 million rear-wheel drive Teslas. Hence why Tesla have upgraded all their lines in Shanghai lately. Coincidence? So if you like coincidences, we have CATL building their new factory and Tesla building their new factory very close to one another. Like I say, M3P is a game changer. There's no point looking back. CATL are likely to go all in on this LMFP type chemistry in this new factory. Tesla may even likely have some involvement too, and help them with some of the production, although I wouldn't have thought dry battery electrode processes yet, but likely have some involvement into what Tesla want. For Tesla's new factory in Shanghai, they're likely to want to take advantage of all their new processes, manufacturing and design, the biggest advancement being the 4680 structural packs. Now, this is a bit speculative here, but what if CATL are able to produce 4680 M3P cells at this new factory? Like I said, it's unlikely they would use dry processes, but they may still have the form factor and be tabless, and thus able to have structural battery packs. If that was the case then, well, we know that creates a massive additional weight saving, along with front and rear castings, which might even mean Tesla can produce these vehicles for a lower cost than their LFP standard range versions, yet sell them for even more, thus further improving margins. Tesla's efficiencies and economies of scale are only going to get better, which will keep reducing costs and thus further improving margins. Yet at the same time, their products keep improving with updates, and the EV movement becomes stronger, their demand keeps increasing, and thus their prices keep rising, and margins get even bigger again. Or do you think Tesla would build another factory that uses old techniques? Possibly, but it's not really Tesla's style. You might think Tesla may use nickel 4680s in this new factory like Texas or Berlin, but I'm fairly confident that Tesla are not going to make any cells in China. I think that may even be part of the joint venture agreement with CATL or the government. If I was Tesla, this new factory would be for a mid-range Model Y. If they could get structural packs and all other efficiencies, then perhaps they could reach the high 200s in miles of range, and potentially an all-wheel drive version too, with slightly lower range. The Model Y is going to be the best-selling vehicle in the world, but there are really only two versions, standard and long range. Sure, performance as well, but it uses the same battery size as long range. And if you're in the US, there isn't even the standard range version. Look how many variants there are of ICE vehicles, all the different engine sizes that the likes of BMW offer for their 3 Series or something. Yet the Model Y will outsell a 3 Series by pretty much an order of magnitude. Therefore, an additional battery size in between the current two wouldn't be a bad idea. Not to mention that eventually the old long-range version might even be replaced with the nickel 4680 version, which could have ranges closer to 400 miles for all we know, leaving a massive gap between 230 miles and 400 miles, meaning there is room in there for a mass market Y with close to 300 miles. There's also a big gap in price between the two as well. This will also have a really high profit margin too. Due to the lower costs, it will be very safe and be excellent for cell degradation too, yet still offers enough range to hit that sweet spot that most consumers are looking for when it comes to range in an EV. The elements are not close to as scarce compared to nickel. This could very well be Tesla's best-selling variant. These will be made just in China, or at least to start, but Elon says that Tesla are going to work closely with their suppliers and help them with the battery and cell production, although dry battery electrode processes have a massive opportunity cost right now for Tesla, as they are better setting up nickel cells for those now, due to the even higher profitability. Tesla may be helping with other parts of the cell instead, possibly even silicon in the anode, which has the biggest impact on cell density. Then perhaps Tesla may end up making their own LMFP cells in the US and Europe too, and potentially with dry battery electrode processes. There really are so many game changers with Tesla, but like I've been saying, this will all take time. It's not Google, where they just have to write some code and suddenly the product is available in the cloud for everyone. Tesla have to build enormous factories first, and then they have to make the largest mass-produced consumer item. It takes time. We have to be patient. We have to maintain our conviction over this period, but great things are happening all around. I think Tesla are going to keep milking the Model Y as much as they can. It's absolutely insane, the level of demand that car has, especially when they're able to find ways of creating even more range at what might even be a lower cost. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.